Hi, I'm Hannah, 29, a graphic designer from Seattle. Growing up, my little sister Sadie, 6 years younger, was my shadow. I'd braid her hair, help with homework, and promise we'd always have each other's backs. But last month, that promise shattered. I opened my credit card statement and saw charges I didn't make. Flights to Hawaii, $2,000 gone. Sadie's name was behind it, and when I told our parents, they took her side. How do you trust family after that? Where are you watching from? Like and subscribe to hear how I faced this betrayal. I sat at my cluttered desk, the glow of my laptop screen casting shadows across my tiny Seattle apartment. It was a quiet Thursday evening, the kind where I'd usually sip chamomile tea and catch up on emails. But tonight my heart was racing. I'd logged into my bank account to pay some bills, expecting the usual groceries, rent, maybe a coffee splurge. Instead, my credit card statement stared back with a line that didn't belong. A $2,000 charge for round-trip flights to Hawaii booked last week. My breath caught. I hadn't been to Hawaii. I hadn't even left Washington in months. I clicked through the details, my fingers trembling. The charge was processed with my card's physical number, not some online hack. My mind scrambled for answers. Could it be a mistake? Fraud? I called the bank, pacing my living room, the phone pressed tight against my ear. The representative's voice was calm, almost robotic. The transaction was authorized with a physical swipe, ma'am. No flags for fraud. I sank onto my couch, the words sinking in. Someone had my card. Someone close. Then it hit me. 2 weeks ago, Sadie had come over all smiles, asking to borrow my purse for a school event. She said her bag was too small for her books and laptop. I didn't think twice. She was my sister, the one I'd always looked out for. I remembered her rifling through my purse, joking about my messy wallet, her laughter filling the room. My stomach twisted. No, it couldn't be her. But the timing was too perfect. I grabbed my phone and texted her, keeping it light, not wanting to accuse her outright. Hey, did you use my credit card for anything? Found a weird charge? I stared at the screen, waiting. Minutes passed. Then her reply popped up. I'll explain later. Busy now. My chest tightened. Explain what? Why not just say no? I opened Instagram almost on instinct, and there she was. Sadie grinning on a Hawaiian beach, her hair loose in the wind, wearing a bright yellow sundress I'd never seen before. The post was time-stamped yesterday. My hands shook as I scrolled. She was in Hawaii. Right now. I leaned back, the room spinning. I thought of all the times I'd covered for her. Like when she was 16, sneaking out to a party and I lied to Mom so she wouldn't get grounded. I'd always been her safety net, the big sister who fixed things. Was this how she repaid me? I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding, that she'd borrowed the card for an emergency and forgot to tell me. But that selfie, that sundress, the vague text, it all felt wrong. At work the next morning, I couldn't focus. My coworker Tessa noticed me staring blankly at my computer, my coffee untouched. Hannah, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost, she said, leaning over the cubicle wall. I hesitated, then spilled everything, the charge. Sadie's trip, her dodgy reply. Tessa's eyes widened, but she stayed calm. My brother pulled something like that once, she said, stirring her tea. Borrowed $500 and swore he'd pay me back. Never did. You need to talk to Sadie, but don't go in guns blazing. Give her a chance to explain. I nodded, grateful for her advice, but my mind was racing. Tessa's story made me realize this wasn't just a one-off. What if Sadie had planned this? I checked my credit card app again, refreshing obsessively. Another charge popped up, still pending $500 for a hotel in Honolulu. My vision blurred with anger. This wasn't over. I sat there gripping my phone, torn between confronting Sadie and hoping I was wrong. But deep down, I knew the truth was already slipping out of reach. I couldn't sit still after seeing that hotel charge. My cubicle felt like a cage, the hum of the office blurring into static. I grabbed my phone and called Sadie, my fingers clumsy on the screen. It rang 4 times before she picked up, her voice breezy like she was lounging by a pool. Hey Hannah, what's up? I swallowed hard, trying to keep my tone even. Sadie, I saw the Hawaii charges. $2,000 for flights, now a hotel. Did you use my card? There was a pause too long, then a sigh. Okay, look, I borrowed it for school fees, but I needed a break. I'll pay you back, promise. My jaw tightened. School fees. That didn't add up. I pressed her, my voice shaking. What school fees cost $2,000 and land you in Hawaii? She mumbled something about stress and deadlines, then said she had to go. The call ended, and I stared at my phone, her words echoing. A break. She'd stolen from me for a vacation and called it a break. I opened my laptop, desperate for answers. I logged into the community college portal where Sadie was supposedly enrolled. My heart sank as I scrolled through her profile. She'd withdrawn from all her classes 4 months ago. No tuition, no fees, nothing. She'd lied to my face. I leaned back in my chair, my chest heavy. Sadie hadn't just taken my money. She'd built a whole story to cover it up. I thought of our late-night talks, how she'd gush about her marketing classes, her dreams of starting a business. Had any of it been real, I needed perspective, so I called Mom. She'd always been our mediator, the one who smoothed things over when Sadie and I fought as kids. I paced my apartment, the phone pressed to my ear, explaining the charges. Sadie's lies, the dropout. Mom's voice was soft, almost dismissive. Hannah, Sadie's been under a lot of pressure. She probably didn't mean to hurt you. Can't you let this go? She'll make it right. I stopped pacing, stunned. Let it go, Mom. She stole from me. Thousands of dollars. And she's not even in school. Mom sighed like I was the one being difficult. She mentioned selling that old necklace of mine to cover some bills. She's struggling, Hannah. Be patient. I froze. The necklace. Grandma's pearl pendant, the one Mom wore at every family gathering passed down from her mother. Sadie had sold it. For what more beach trips? My voice cracked. She sold Grandma's necklace and you're defending her. Mom hesitated, then said, she didn't mean it. You're doing fine, Hannah. Help her out. I hung up my hands, trembling. Mom knew about the necklace and still took Sadie's side. It felt like a slap. Back at work, Tessa caught me staring at my screen, my eyes glassy. Any update, she asked, sliding into the chair beside me. I told her about Sadie's lies, the dropout mom's reaction. Tessa frowned, tapping her pen. That's rough. You need to protect yourself. Check your credit report. Make sure she hasn't done more damage. Her words hit hard. More damage. I hadn't even considered that. I opened my banking app, my pulse racing, and there it was, another pending charge, $300 for a boutique in Waikiki. My vision blurred with anger. Sadie wasn't stopping. She was digging deeper, and my own mother was letting her. I couldn't stay at work after seeing that boutique charge. My hands shook as I packed my bag. Tessa's words about checking my credit report echoing in my head. I told her I needed the afternoon off, mumbling something about a family emergency. She gave me a knowing nod, her eyes soft with concern. Driving to Sadie's apartment, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, I rehearsed what I'd say. I wanted answers, not excuses. The Seattle rain pelted my windshield, matching the storm inside me. Sadie's place was a cramped studio in Capitol Hill, cluttered with half-packed boxes and takeout containers. She opened the door, her hair messy, wearing an oversized sweatshirt. Hannah. What's wrong? She asked, like she hadn't dodged my calls for days. I stepped inside, my voice steady but sharp. You lied about school, Sadie. You dropped out. And you're still using my card. Why? Her face hardened and she crossed her arms. You don't get it. You've always had it easy. Perfect job, perfect apartment. I needed to get away. Her words cut deep. Easy, I'd worked nights to pay for college, saved every penny for my place. So you stole from me because you're jealous, I snapped. Sadie's eyes flashed. You owe me, Hannah. You were always Mom and Dad's favorite, the golden child. I had to fend for myself. I stared at her, stunned. Favorite, I remembered begging for their attention while Sadie got new clothes, concert tickets, a car. Her version of our childhood was a twisted mirror. I wanted to scream, but my phone buzzed. It was Dad. I put it on speaker, hoping he'd back me up. "Hannah, what's this about Sadie's trip?" he asked, his tone gruff. I explained the charges, the lies Sadie's dropout. Sadie stood there smirking like she knew what was coming. Dad sighed. "She's young, Hannah. She needs space to figure things out. You're doing fine. Why make a big deal?" My heart sank. "She stole thousands, Dad. That's not okay." He cut me off. "Don't be so hard on her. Let her live." I hung up my throat tight. Sadie's smirk faded, but she didn't apologize. I felt like I was drowning my family, slipping away. Back in my car, I called Marcus, my lawyer friend from college. We met at a coffee shop, the smell of espresso grounding me as I poured out everything. Marcus leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "This isn't just theft, Hannah. It's identity fraud. You need to freeze your card now before she does more damage." His words hit like a punch. Fraud. My sister. I froze my card from my banking app, my finger hesitating over the confirm button. It felt final, like I was cutting a thread between me and Sadie. Marcus watched me, his voice gentle. "I had a cousin pull something similar. Took years to fix my credit." "Don't wait." I nodded, but guilt gnawed at me. Was I overreacting? Sadie was my sister. But as I sat there, the weight of her betrayal grew heavier, and I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. The coffee shop's warmth faded as I left Marcus and drove home, the city lights blurring through my tears. Sadie's accusation that I was the favorite looped in my mind, twisting every memory of our childhood. I'd spent years thinking I was the overlooked one, scraping by while she got handouts. Now she'd flipped the script, and Dad bought it. My phone lit up with a notification. Sadie had posted on Instagram a cryptic caption, "Some people only care about themselves. Grateful for real family." The comments piled up, friends we'd grown up with chiming in. "Stay strong. Sadie, don't let haters win." My stomach churned. She was painting me as the villain. I scrolled through the messages, each one a jab. Our old neighbor Carla wrote, "Heard you're giving Sadie a hard time. Let her breathe." I wanted to scream that she'd stolen from me, lied about school, sold our grandmother's necklace. But I froze my thumbs, hovering over the keyboard. Anything I said would just fuel her narrative. I tossed my phone onto the couch, my chest tight. How had it come to this? Then an email popped up, the subject line making my heart stop. "Sorry about Hawaii." It was from Chloe, Sadie's friend who'd tagged along on the trip. She wrote that she hadn't known Sadie used my card, thinking it was a gift from our parents. "I feel awful, Hannah. She said you were cool with it." I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding. Sadie hadn't just lied to me. She'd dragged others into her deception. I replied, thanking Chloe for her honesty, but the words felt hollow. The betrayal was spreading, tainting every corner of my life. My phone rang. It was Mom, her voice sharp. "Hannah, why are you making this worse? I saw you froze Sadie's card. She's stuck in Hawaii now, no way to pay her hotel." I gripped the phone, my voice rising. "My card, Mom, she stole it. And you're worried about her hotel?" Mom's tone turned cold. "You're tearing this family apart. Sadie's struggling and you're punishing her. Fix this." I laughed, bitter and raw. "Fix it. She sold Grandma's necklace and you're blaming me." Mom went silent, then hung up. I sank to the floor, my back against the wall. Mom's words echoed Dad's like a script they'd rehearsed. I thought of the family dinners where Sadie's charm always won them over, how I'd smile and let it go. But this wasn't a missed curfew or a borrowed sweater. This was my life, my savings, my trust. I opened my credit app, checking for updates. A new alert. An attempt to charge $1,000 at a jewelry store blocked by the freeze. My breath caught. She wasn't stopping. I called Tessa, my voice shaking as I told her about Sadie's post, Mom's call, the jewelry charge. "She's turning everyone against me," I said, my throat tight. Tessa sighed. "My brother did that too. Spread lies to save face. It hurts, but you can't let her control the story." Her words made sense, but the weight of it all was crushing me. My family, my friends, my sense of home. It was all slipping away, and Sadie was at the center pulling the strings. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a bank alert that stopped me cold. Someone had tried to apply for a $10,000 loan using my social security number. My knees buckled and I sank onto my kitchen floor, the linoleum cool against my palms. This wasn't just a credit card swipe. This was my identity, my future dangling by a thread. I called the bank, my voice barely steady, and they confirmed the attempt was flagged and blocked, but the applicant's details pointed to Sadie. My sister had crossed a line I couldn't fathom. I drove to her apartment, my mind a fog of rage and disbelief. Last time I'd hoped for answers. Now I needed the truth. Her door was ajar, and I pushed it open to find her packing a suitcase, her phone pressed to her ear. She froze when she saw me, muttering, "I'll call you back," before hanging up. "Hannah, what are you doing here?" she asked, her tone sharp. I held up my phone, the bank alert glaring. "You tried to take out a loan in my name. 10 grand, Sadie. How could you?" Her eyes darted away and she started folding clothes, avoiding me. "It's not what you think," she mumbled. I stepped closer, my voice shaking. "Then explain it. Because right now, it looks like you're trying to ruin my life," she snapped. "You're so dramatic. I just needed help, okay? You wouldn't understand." I spotted a notebook on her coffee table, my name scrawled on a page. I grabbed it, ignoring her protest, and flipped it open. My social security number, my birth date, my bank account details, all written in her handwriting, dated weeks ago. My stomach lurched. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment mistake. She'd planned it. I called Tessa, asking her to meet me at our parents' house. I needed a witness, someone to keep me grounded. By the time we arrived, my hands were trembling, the notebook clutched like evidence. Mom and Dad were in the living room. Sadie slouched on the couch, her arms crossed. I laid it all out. The loan attempt, the notebook, the months of lies. "She's been using my identity," I said, my voice cracking. "This isn't just a trip to Hawaii. It's fraud." Mom's face paled, but she turned to Sadie. "Is this true?" Sadie burst into tears, her words a jumble. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I was desperate." Then Mom did something I'll never forget. She stood pointing at me. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Hannah. She's your sister. She made a mistake. Stop acting like she's a criminal." I stared at her, my heart splintering. "A mistake. She stole my identity, Mom. She wrote down my private information like I'm a mark." Dad chimed in, his voice low. "I gave her some of your details a while back for a school form. She must have kept them. Don't make this a witch hunt." Tessa gasped beside me, her hand on my arm. I felt the room tilt, their words a betrayal deeper than Sadie's. I stood frozen in my parents' living room, Dad's confession ringing in my ears. Tessa's grip on my arm tightened, her silence louder than words. Sadie's sobs filled the room, but they felt hollow, rehearsed. I wanted to scream, to shake them all until they saw the truth. Instead, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a group text from Sadie to our extended family. I opened it, my hands trembling. "Hannah's trying to ruin my life over a misunderstanding. She's always been jealous of me. Please support me." My blood ran cold. She'd sent it to aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. The replies flooded in. "We're here for you, Sadie. Don't let her bring you down." My cousin Natalie, who I'd confided in years ago, wrote, "Hannah, stop this drama. You're breaking the family." I felt like I'd been punched. Tessa read over my shoulder, whispering, "She's lying to everyone." I looked at Sadie, her tear-streaked face defiant. "You're telling them I'm jealous after you stole my identity?" I asked, my voice raw. She stood, her voice venomous. "You've always wanted to control me, Hannah. Perfect Hannah with her perfect life." I took what I deserved. Mom rushed to her side, hugging her. "Enough, Hannah. You're upsetting her." I laughed, a broken sound. Then I remembered something. My childhood guitar, the one Grandma gave me before she passed, the one I'd left at Sadie's place years ago for safekeeping. I'd seen it in a pawn shop listing online last week, marked with my initials carved on the back. "Sadie," I said, my voice shaking, "did you pawn my guitar?" Her eyes widened just for a second before she looked away. "I needed money," she muttered. Mom gasped, but Dad cut in. "It's just a guitar, Hannah. I'll buy you another. Let's move on." Move on. That guitar was my last piece of grandma, the one thing Sadie knew I cherished. I turned to Tessa, my vision blurring. "I can't do this." She nodded, guiding me toward the door. Mom called after me, "Don't you dare walk out on us." I kept going, my heart pounding until I was outside, the cold air hitting my face. In the car, Tessa drove while I stared out the window, numb. My phone kept buzzing, more texts, more accusations. Sadie had posted a photo of herself crying, captioned, "Betrayed by family." The likes poured in, each one a knife. Then Dad texted, offering to pay half the credit card charges if I dropped the whole thing. I read it twice, my chest hollow. They were bargaining with my pain, protecting Sadie while I drowned. I'd never felt so alone, so utterly discarded, with nowhere left to turn. Tessa dropped me off at my apartment, the silence between us heavy but kind. I collapsed onto my couch, the weight of my family's betrayal pressing down. Sadie's lies. Mom's accusations. Dad's bribe. They swirled in my head, each one a fresh wound. But something shifted inside me, a spark of defiance. I couldn't keep drowning in their chaos. I grabbed my laptop, my hands steady for the first time in days, and opened the police department's website. Filing a report against Sadie felt like crossing a chasm, but I started typing, detailing the credit card charges, the loan attempt, the notebook. My heart pounded, but I kept going, every word, a reclaiming of my truth. I called Marcus, needing his clarity. He met me at a diner near my place, the smell of fries and coffee grounding us. "I'm reporting her," I said, my voice firm. "It's not just about the money. It's my life she's messing with." Marcus nodded, his eyes steady. "It's the right move, Hannah. But it's not easy." "You sure?" I thought of Sadie's smirk, the pawned guitar, the family text thread tearing me apart. "I'm sure." He suggested hiring a private investigator to dig deeper into Sadie's actions. It sounded extreme, but the idea of knowing the full scope of her damage gave me purpose. By the next morning, I'd contacted Elena, a PI Marcus recommended. Over the phone, her voice was calm, professional. "Send me everything you have," she said. Bank statements, screenshots, that notebook. I emailed her the files, including photos of Sadie's Instagram posts from Hawaii. Elena called back within hours. "She's been busy," she said. "I found charges for jewelry spa days, even a rental car, all on your card before you froze it. I'll keep digging." Her words lit a fire in me. Sadie hadn't just taken a vacation. She'd lived a fantasy on my dime. I met with a lawyer, Ms. Carter, in a small office downtown. She reviewed my evidence, her pen tapping the desk. "You've got a strong case for fraud," she said. "We can pursue a civil suit alongside the police report. It'll hit her financially, make her accountable." I nodded, imagining Sadie facing real consequences. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. But the family backlash came fast. My cousin Natalie texted, her words sharp. "You're really dragging Sadie to court. You're destroying us." I didn't respond. I'd spent years smoothing over family fights, but not this time. I drove to the police station, the report printed and signed, and handed it to an officer. He read it, his face neutral. "We'll question her," he said. "She's claiming you gave her permission." My stomach twisted, but I stood tall. "I didn't. I have proof." Walking out, I felt a quiet strength growing, like I was finally fighting for myself. The police report was just the start, but it lit something in me I hadn't felt in weeks. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was choosing my path. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop, the glow reflecting off my untouched tea. Sadie's Instagram was still up, her latest post, a beach sunset with a caption about finding peace. My fingers itched to comment, to call out her lies, but I stopped. I wouldn't play her game. Instead, I opened a blank document and started typing a public statement, not for her followers, but for mine. My sister used my credit card without permission, racking up thousands in charges. She lied about school pawned family heirlooms and tried to take a loan in my name. I'm taking legal action to protect myself. This isn't easy, but it's the truth. I posted it on my social media, my heart racing knowing the family would see it. The fallout was immediate. My Aunt Clara called, her voice dripping with disappointment. Hannah airing family business online. That's low. I held my ground, my voice calm. I'm not hiding her lies anymore, Clara. I deserve to be heard. She hung up, but for the first time I didn't feel crushed. I was done carrying their shame. The next day, I drove to the pawn shop where Sadie had sold my guitar. The clerk, a kind older man, recognized my initials on the back. Thought this was special, he said, handing it over after I paid a small fee to reclaim it. I ran my fingers over the worn strings. A piece of my past returned. It wasn't just a guitar. It was proof I could take back what was mine. Mom's silence hurt the most. She hadn't called since the confrontation, but Dad sent a text, short and cold. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I didn't reply. Instead, I met Tessa for coffee, needing her steadiness. She listened as I told her about the post, the guitar, the family's reaction. Sadie tried to borrow money from me yesterday, Tessa admitted, stirring her latte. Said she was in a bind. I said no. I blinked, stunned. Sadie's desperation was spreading, but I wasn't surprised anymore. Thanks for telling me, I said, my resolve hardening. Elena, the investigator, sent an update. She'd traced more charges, a designer handbag, dinner cruises, even a surf lesson, all before I froze the card. She's reckless, Elena said over the phone. But your reports got traction. The police are taking it seriously. I thanked her, feeling a quiet pride. I wasn't just fighting for me. I was exposing a pattern. That night, Marcus and Tessa came over, insisting on a low-key dinner to lift my spirits. We ordered pizza, laughed over old college stories, and for a few hours I felt like myself again. Marcus raised his soda. To Hannah, who's done playing nice. I smiled, warmth spreading through me. The lawyer called the next morning. Sadie was facing charges that could lead to jail time depending on how I pursued the case. I sat on my balcony, the Seattle skyline hazy in the distance, and weighed my options. I didn't want revenge, but I needed her to understand the damage. I closed my eyes, the guitar resting against the wall, inside its presence a silent anchor. I wasn't the sister who fixed everything anymore. I was Hannah, and I was enough. The days after my public post and the police report felt like walking through fog, every step deliberate but uncertain. I woke to a voicemail from the prosecutor's office, a woman's voice, crisp and matter-of-fact. Sadie had pleaded guilty to misdemeanor theft to avoid harsher charges. She'd been sentenced to 2 years probation and ordered to repay $3,000 starting with monthly installments. I listened to the message twice, sitting on my bed, the morning light filtering through my blinds. It was justice, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a door closing. Sadie's response came in the mail, a single page slipped into an unmarked envelope. I opened it at my kitchen counter, expecting anger or more excuses. Instead, it was a handwritten note, her cursive shaky. I'm sorry, Hannah. I was drowning in stress and made bad choices. I'll pay you back. No mention of the guitar, the necklace, or the lies she'd spread. I folded the paper and tucked it into a drawer, unsure if I believed her. Her words were too tidy, like something she'd rehearsed for the judge. I drove to the courthouse for the restitution, hearing my stomach knotted. Sadie sat across the room, her hair pulled back, her eyes fixed on the floor. Mom was there too, her face drawn, but she didn't look at me. When the judge read the terms, $3,000 payable over a year, Sadie nodded, silent. I waited for Mom to say something to acknowledge the pain she'd dismissed, but she just took Sadie's hand and led her out. I stood alone in the empty courtroom, the echo of their footsteps fading. Later, I got a text from Dad, a single line with a photo of a check for $1,000. This is my part. Let's put this behind us. I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over a reply. His money felt like a transaction, a way to buy peace without facing the truth. I deposited the check but didn't respond. I wasn't ready to let him off that easily. At home, I found an email from Natalie, my cousin, who'd sided with Sadie. She wanted to meet to clear the air. I deleted it, my jaw tight. I was tired of their apologies, their their attempts to rewrite the story. I called Elena, the investigator, needing someone outside the family. She answered on the first ring, her voice warm. "You did good, Hannah. That report made a difference." She told me about a client she'd helped, a woman whose brother drained her savings. "Your case pushed me to take hers on," she said. I hung up, a flicker of pride cutting through the numbness. I'd started something bigger than my own fight. That night, I booked a therapy appointment, my first ever. I didn't know what to say, but I knew I needed to untangle the knots Sadie and my parents had tied inside me. The therapy appointment loomed, but before I could face it, life kept moving. I checked my social media expecting more family backlash, but found something else. A handful of old friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged me privately. "I saw your post," one wrote, "a girl named Rachel from high school. Sadie told us you were overreacting, but I believe you. I'm sorry." Another, from a college classmate, said, "My sister did something similar. You're not alone." Their words were small anchors pulling me back from the isolation. I replied to each, my fingers slow, choosing gratitude over bitterness. I started a blog almost on impulse, typing late into the night. It was called Drawing the Line, a space to share what I'd learned about financial boundaries and family betrayal. The first post poured out raw, honest about Sadie's theft and my fight to reclaim my life. I didn't expect much, but comments trickled in from strangers. "This happened to me with my cousin. Thank you for speaking up." The blog grew, each reader a reminder that my story mattered. I sat back staring at the screen, a quiet strength settling in. I'd turned my pain into something that helped others. But family ties didn't heal so easily. I set a rule: no contact with Mom or Dad until they faced what happened. Mom's number stayed silent, her absence a dull ache. Dad called once, leaving a voicemail I didn't answer. "Hannah, we need to talk. This isn't right." His voice was softer, but it carried no apology, no accountability. I let it sit unreturned. Then I heard from a cousin that Sadie had moved to Oregon, claiming she needed a fresh start. I pictured her packing her bags, her face unreadable, and felt nothing. Her promises to repay me were just words now, as weightless as her note. Tessa invited me to a game night at her place, a small gathering with Marcus and a few others. We played cards, the table littered with snacks, their laughter easing the tension in my shoulders. Tessa leaned over during a quiet moment, her voice low. "You're different now, Hannah. Stronger." I smiled, unsure how to respond. Marcus chimed in, grinning. "She's a badass." Sadie didn't see this coming. Their support wrapped around me, a new kind of family, one I'd chosen. I left that night feeling lighter, my steps sure on the dark Seattle streets. The next morning, a package arrived, no return address. I opened it on my kitchen floor, the tape tearing under my fingers. Inside was Grandma's pearl necklace, its clasp still bent from years of wear. No note, no explanation, but I knew it was from Sadie. I held it, the pearls cool against my palm, and waited for relief, for closure. Instead, a hollow ache spread through me. She'd given it back, but it couldn't undo the trust she'd shattered. I set the necklace on the table, its glow dim under the morning light, and sat in silence, the weight of it all too heavy to name. The necklace sat on my kitchen table for days, untouched, its presence a quiet question I wasn't ready to answer. I threw myself into work, channeling the chaos of the past months into a new freelance project, a branding campaign for a local bookstore. Morning started with coffee and sketches, my apartment filled with the soft scratch of pencil on paper. I landed the contract after a pitch that left the owner beaming, and for the first time in a while, I felt capable, like I was building something just for me. On a whim, I signed up to volunteer at a financial literacy workshop downtown, a small nonprofit helping people avoid scams and debt. The first session was in a community center, the room buzzing with nervous faces. I shared my story, not the raw details, but enough of family members' betrayal, the fight to protect my credit, the lessons in boundaries. A woman in the back, maybe my age, raised her hand. "How do you trust again?" she asked, her voice shaky. I paused, searching for an answer. "You start with yourself," I said. "Trust your own strength first." Her nod, small but real, stayed with me. At home, I started journaling, something my therapist suggested. I wrote about the years I'd spent as the family's anchor, always ready to fix Sadie's messes or smooth Mom's worries. The pages filled with memories I hadn't touched in years, teaching Sadie to ride a bike, her laughter echoing in our old backyard, Mom's proud smile when I graduated college. But I also wrote about the weight of being the good one, the one who never complained. I wasn't that person anymore. I'd outgrown the role, and the realization felt like shedding a heavy coat. My phone buzzed one evening, Mom's name lighting up the screen. I let it ring, my heart steady. She left a text. "Can we talk? I miss you." I read it twice, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to run to her, to hug her, and pretend nothing had changed. But I set the phone down. I needed space time to protect the peace I was building. I walked to my window, the Seattle skyline twinkling against the dusk, and breathed deeply. I was enough just as I was. The workshop became a weekly ritual, each session grounding me. I met people carrying their own scars, divorce fraud, bad loans, and their stories wove into mine. I wasn't alone. One afternoon, I framed Grandma's necklace and hung it above my desk, its pearls catching the light. It wasn't about Sadie anymore. It was a reminder of what I'd reclaimed. I stood back, my hands on my hips, and smiled. This was my home, my life, and I was finally living it on my terms. The workshop sessions gave me a rhythm, a place to feel useful without carrying anyone else's weight. One evening, I reconnected with Julia, a friend from college I hadn't seen in years. We met at a quiet cafe, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread. Over tea, she shared her own story, her father's favoritism toward her brother, the years she spent proving herself. "It changes you," she said, her eyes steady. "But you learn to choose who gets your energy." I nodded, her words settling into me like a truth I'd been reaching for. We talked until the cafe closed, our laughter soft, our bond rediscovered. At home, I found a stray dog curled up outside my building, her fur matted, but her eyes bright. I brought her water, then called a shelter. They said she was a stray no chip, and I could foster her. I named her Hope, and she followed me inside, her paws clicking on the hardwood. Feeding her, watching her nap by my couch, I felt a quiet joy, something simple and mine. She wasn't a fix for the past, but a reminder of the present. Dad called a few days later, his voice hesitant. "Hannah, I'm sorry for how things went. Can we start over?" I listened, my hand resting on Hope's head. "I need time, Dad," I said, my tone even. "You didn't see me when I needed you." He went quiet, then agreed to respect my space. It wasn't closure, but it was enough. I hung up, my heart steady. I'd set a boundary, and it held. I heard through a cousin that Sadie was struggling in Oregon, working odd jobs, barely scraping by. Part of me wanted to reach out to check on her, but I stopped myself. I'd spent too long saving her. She had her path, and I had mine. I walked Hope along the waterfront, the Puget Sound shimmering under a gray sky. The air was crisp, the world wide open. I didn't need to carry her burdens anymore. Marcus surprised me with a gift one afternoon, a leather guitar strap hand-stitched with my initials. "For your music," he said, grinning. I hugged him, my throat tight. It was more than a gift. It was a nod to who I was becoming. That night I planned a solo trip to the Olympic Peninsula, just me and Hope, a weekend to hike and breathe. I packed my journal, my guitar, and a single photo of me and Sadie as kids, smiling in our old backyard. I tucked it into my bag, not as regret, but as a piece of where I'd been. Standing in my doorway, I looked back at my apartment, Hope wagging her tail. I was ready to go. I stood on the rocky shore of the Olympic Peninsula, the wind sharp against my cheeks, Hope sniffing the seaweed at my feet. The solo trip was my reset, 3 days of hiking trails and sleeping in a tent under a blanket of stars. I'd left my phone on silent, letting the sound of waves and rustling pines fill the quiet. My journal rested in my backpack pages, now thick with thoughts I'd never spoken aloud. I wasn't running from the past, but I wasn't chasing it either. I was here present, and that was enough. Back in Seattle, I settled into a new rhythm. My mornings began with yoga in my living room, the stretch of each pose grounding me. I'd brew coffee, let Hope curl up on her bed and work on my freelance projects with a focus I hadn't had in months. The bookstore campaign was a success, leading to 2 more clients, small businesses with big dreams. I poured myself into their logos, their stories, finding joy in creating something lasting. My apartment, once a refuge from chaos, became a space I loved. Plants on the windowsill, a new bookshelf for my novels, a corner for my guitar. The blog kept growing, each post a step toward healing. I wrote about setting boundaries, about the guilt of saying no, about rebuilding trust in yourself. Readers left comments sharing their struggles: a mother who'd bailed out her son too many times, a man whose friend maxed out his card. Their words wove a community I hadn't expected, a reminder that pain wasn't solitary. One evening, I recorded my first podcast episode, just me and a microphone, talking about the moment I chose to fight for myself. My voice shook at first, but by the end, it was steady, clear. Work noticed my shift. My boss called me into her office, a rare smile on her face. "Hannah, you've been killing it," she said, offering me a promotion to lead designer. I accepted, my chest warm with pride. It wasn't about proving anything to Sadie or my parents. It was about proving it to myself. I celebrated with Tessa and Marcus at a taco truck, the city lights bright around us. Tessa raised her soda. "To the new Hannah," she said. I laughed, shaking my head. "Just Hannah," I corrected, and meant it. Mom reached out again, this time asking to meet. I agreed, choosing a neutral spot, a park near my place. She looked older, her eyes tired, and when she hugged me, I felt her tremble. "I was wrong," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't see how much I hurt you." I listened, my hands in my pockets, and nodded. "I know you love me, Mom, but I needed you to stand with me, not against me." She cried, promising to try, and I believed her just enough to keep the door open. We parted with a tentative plan to talk again, no rush, no pressure. I walked home, Hope trotting beside me, the weight of her words settling without breaking me. Dad and I hadn't spoken since his call, but I sent him a short text thanking him for trying and left it there. I didn't need his approval anymore, just my own. I heard through Julia that Sadie had started therapy in Oregon, working at a coffee shop to cover her restitution payments. I didn't reach out, but I hoped she was finding her way, not for my sake, but for hers. I'd learned to let go without resentment, to wish her well from a distance. It was a small freedom, but it was mine. One Sunday, I visited Natalie, my cousin, who'd once judged me. We sat in her backyard, the summer air warm, sipping iced tea. "I was wrong to take Sadie's side," she said, her eyes meeting mine. I didn't see the whole story. I nodded, stirring my glass, the ice clinking softly. "It's okay. I'm not keeping score." We talked for hours about family mistakes, the ways we grow apart and back together. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and that was enough. My evenings became sacred. I'd cook simple dinners, pasta with fresh herbs, a salad, and eat on my balcony. Hope sprawled at my feet. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Small canvases of the city skyline, the water, the life I was building. Each brushstroke felt like a promise to myself, a way to mark time that wasn't defined by betrayal. I hung one above my couch, its blues and golds catching the light, a quiet declaration of who I was now. In therapy, I found words for the scars. I wrote a letter to my younger self, not to send, but to keep. "You gave too much," I wrote, "but you learned to save some for you. You're stronger than you know." Reading it aloud in session, my voice cracked, but I finished, tears falling. It wasn't about erasing the pain. It was about carrying it differently, lighter, with grace. I tucked the letter into my journal, a map of where I'd been and where I was going. The deepest lesson came slowly, like dawn creeping over the horizon. Betrayal didn't just break me. It showed me my worth. I'd spent years measuring myself by my family's needs, their approval, their chaos. But in standing up and choosing myself, I found a truth that held me steady. I was enough, not because I fixed things, but because I dared to rebuild. That strength, that quiet fire, was my gift to myself, and no one could take it away. What's a moment that made you realize your own worth? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. If this journey resonated with you, please like and subscribe to join me in exploring these truths. Share this with someone who might need it, someone searching for their own light. Thank you for listening, for being here. Here's to healing, to growing, to finding peace in who we are.